Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I've just greeted my locals page first. They are fantastic. They're a big part of my community. I really appreciate everything that they do. And the men's room, hail from the Fandom Collective. Hail to the Fandom Collective. The Fandom Collective guys are fantastic. They're a group of like-minded, like-minded nerds who just have a good time and they just want to worry about political pandering. And so go and check out their guys and ladies. They have a good group of men and women who I am very impressed with all their stuff, all the people that I've gotten to know through chatting and also through their YouTube channels, their Rumble channels, wherever they're watching. I think that they are just fantastic. So hail to hail to the Fandom Collective as well, and also Pixie Ray, that's my super cute wife. She is also my, producer. She is also in the stream. Hi, babe. Love you very much. Thank you for indulging me in my, hobbies, such as, doing a surprise live stream. So, like I said, like I was telling my locals community before I came over. I'm just doing kind of a chill stream today. I'm having a good time. I just wanted to be able to go live and talk about a couple of things that I saw in the news. And right now, I'm sharing out the link to all my socials. I don't have, my wife. She's handling the moderation side. She's handling the production side, but she and I are pretty much solo on this. And when she has to do art stuff, I'm pretty much on my own. She does her absolute best to help me when she's not making amazing artwork. So yeah, definitely head over and check out if you're here, if you're watching Studio Jake, click that like button, hit subscribe, and share it out. Whether you're watching on Facebook or Getter, YouTube, or Locals, I really appreciate it. All of you are fantastic, and I'm not like I try to not to be like other influencers that I see when they are when they're in this space where they're like, "Oh yeah, it's all about me. If it wasn't for me." No, no. I am completely unaware that that all of you make this happen. So I want to thank you a great deal. So what are we going to talk about today? So I want to there's a couple of topics I want to hit on before we dive into them. I also want to take a moment. So a friend of mine that I used to write with, a guy named Paul Roland. I'm not going to say where or what because it doesn't matter, but he and I used to be coworkers. We became good friends. It's really kind of funny because he is hardcore Catholic, and as everyone here knows, I'm hardcore Protestant. But it just goes to show you his friendship with me, how two people who have different points of view can get along, and that's true with me and Paul Roland. And he just released his feature film debut as a director, a movie called Exemplum. Now, I have seen this movie. I think it's great. I reviewed it on my website, studiojakemedia.com, and it had its premiere at the Pasadena Film Festival, where it got nominated and received a few awards. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Paul Roland. If you get a chance, I don't know if I'm allowed to announce specifics, but it is going to be coming to home video release in some fashion, and so keep an eye out for it. And I'm going to do my. I want to just um, shout out Exemplum because Paul Roland, whenever I was writing Breaking the Stars, he had my back as well. He's a true believer in seeking out alternatives to the political pandering that goes on in Hollywood. So when you get a chance, definitely check out Exemplum. Keep an eye out for it. So just wanted to throw that out there. Also, this is something that's really big. Jumping into this first topic here. So, as everyone knows, Henry Cavill's kind of had a rough go of it. So he left Netflix's The Witcher. I did not watch the show. I know nothing about the show. I've never read the books, never played the video games. I am a total normie when it comes to the Witcherverse. Just so we're clear, I don't want to pull a Kevin Smith where I'm saying, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of this," and then I get things wrong and mess it up totally, and then pretend, and then people find years later they find quotes and saying, "Oh, I never really liked that." So I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to say I know nothing about The Witcher, but from what I understood, even people who didn't care for the writing, the direction of the show, they liked Henry Cavill's performances. Makes total sense to me. I think he's a fantastic actor, even in the non-superhero, non-fandom stuff. I've seen him, such as The Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel. He played a side character in that film, and he was really good in it. And I just think that um, believer. Everyone knows him. He's a gamer. He doesn't just do video games. He also does tabletop games. So he was a true believer in this franchise. They actually didn't want to hire him. He actually showed up in cosplay to show that he was right for the role, but because of disputes with the story, with everything in between, he grew more and more frustrated with it, and eventually he just left. But he thought he was going to go right back into DC Studios because it seemed like James Gunn was going to kind of do a soft reboot of the original DCU launched by known Hollywood hack Snyder. Ended up not working out that way. Cavill got fired. I think it's interesting that, James Gunn, he likes to tell jokes about animals exploiting children and likes to do costume parties where grown adults dress like little kids. Kind of creepy, as a theme. But then he's not going to he gets rid of Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, but he's not getting rid of, criminal Ezra Miller or Amber Heard, who's been proven to be a she too person, as I say. But and I don't and you know, total fraud. And I think that's kind of interesting. You do the math on that, but Henry Cavill got the axe. But it's things are kind of looking up for him. So supposedly he's going to star in a Highlander remake. It's supposed to be done by the director of the John Wick films, but we don't know the status of that film. It seems to be a little bit in development limbo. But fans got some big news that he is actually going to be the executive producer of a franchise that Amazon is building around Warhammer 40,000 or 40K. Now, again, I know nothing, zero about Warhammer. I've been trying to watch some lore videos, but since I'm new at it, I don't really know it. I know that there's tabletop games. I know that there's video games. I know that there's novels. I'm actually thinking about getting into the novels a little bit because that's a little bit more my speed. That way, whenever the film and TV shows or whatever they're planning on doing come out, I'm more familiar with it, but don't really have time to get into a tabletop game right now. But maybe I can add some Warhammer novels uh, to my reading list. If you have suggestions for some, let me know in the chat box or in the comments below. Like I said, from wherever you're watching, I would really appreciate it. And there's also another rumor that was broke by Giant Freaking Robot. Now, Giant Freaking Robot is kind of hit or miss. They like to publish a lot of rumors. Some get substantiated, some don't. But again, they're just talking about rumors. There's nothing wrong with reporting rumors. I do remember there was some drama because they tried to claim that they broke a story before before another news outlet did. When you but then when you actually when you actually looked at the timestamps and the metadata, it wasn't actually true. So there's some drama there with that. But I wanted to bring this up is Henry Cavill starred in a remake of a TV show called The Man from Uncle. And when it came out, it was kind of unique because The Man from Uncle was originally supposed to be the show where um, a spy from the United States and a spy from the Soviet Union worked together to take on common threats. Now, um, obviously, the Cold War is over. Guy Ritchie kind of modernized the concept. Henry Cavill played the spy Solo, I think is his name, who was originally played by Robert Vaughn, and then Army Hammer played the Soviet counterpart. Real human cannibals, Army Hammer. So, giant freaking robot. They released this. That Guy Ritchie is wanting to do a sequel to The Man from Uncle, and it's interesting because this movie didn't really do so hot at the box office. That kind of it wasn't really a big a really big deal. It wasn't really a huge movie. I remember when it came out, I wanted to go see it. I did think it was kind of weird. Guy Ritchie's a British director, so I was wondering why he was doing a movie about an American agent working with Soviet. I haven't seen the film. Obviously, you can tell by the way I'm rambling, but I still think if he brings back Henry Cavill, it would be really interesting. They were saying that it's possible that Aaron Taylor Johnson will take the role of the Soviet counterpart because he has said he's in talks to playing a spy character. But I don't really know if this I have to admit, I'm not really sure if this rumor is true. I would like it to be just because I like Henry Cavill. And even though I did not like Zack Snyder's nihilistic, woe is me, teenage angst version of Superman, I still thought that Henry Cavill did a good job with what he had. He tried to work in some good parts about the character, but just with the crappy writing and the poor direction that he got, it just didn't work out. So I hope that this is true because I would like to see Henry Cavill in more things. I actually would like to see him be Sherlock Holmes apart from Enola Holmes. Remember how the first one it was this big deal and there was all this hype around it. And, oh, it's going to be Sherlock Holmes, and all this. And then the second one it was kind of a dud. Like the trailer didn't get as much attention. There wasn't a whole lot of force behind it, which I thought was a little weird. But same here. But I thought Henry Cavill was a good Sherlock Holmes. I wouldn't mind seeing him portray Sherlock Holmes, again on just as himself, like I said, apart from Enola Holmes. I didn't like the actor they got to play not Lestrade, Mycroft Holmes. For one thing, I don't know what this is where people are kind of afraid to portray Mycroft like how he's described in the books, in the short stories. Mycroft is he's supposed to be possibly even smarter than Sherlock, but he's also kind of lazy. He's overweight. He eats a lot of sugary treats. He smokes cigars all the time. He's kind of like this guy. And he's also the books kind of imply that he's significantly older than Holmes. Like they're not just like a year apart. And for some reason, movies don't like to do this. I remember I watched a movie called The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. And in the film, Christopher Lee portrayed Christopher Lee. He was a phenomenal actor, truly underrated. But every part he played, he just dove into. And but just didn't look like Mycroft. Because Christopher Lee was real tall and kind of thin. And again, Mycroft is supposed to be kind of short and heftier. So and also kind of lazy. And then this one, he was like the super spy. And I didn't really care for that movie to begin with. I thought the title was kind of dumb, but the movie ended up being okay. I mean, it wasn't blow me away amazing. It wasn't as bad as that PBS where they got Rupert Everett to play Sherlock Holmes. Oh my gosh, what a terrible casting. Rupert Everett, it's so sad because Rupert Everett is a pretty good actor, but geez. Sorry, I got off on a little Sherlockian rant there. Everyone knows I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. I've got the complete Sherlock Holmes right here. I've got the Final Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You probably can't see this one but it's this one here. The final adventures of Sherlock Holmes were actually found a few years later. A few of them are kind of apocryphal. No one really knows if that, like, there's one in here called The Man with the Watches. It has been confirmed that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, did write these stories, but they're kind of unclear if they're Sherlock Holmes. I also have the exploits of Sherlock Holmes. Those were written by Adrian Conan Doyle, who was Arthur Conan Doyle's son. He wrote a few short stories of his own that because there's a few references to other cases, and you can tell that Conan Doyle was kind of teasing other adventures, but they never came to fruition. Um, all that to say, sorry, like I said, got off on a little Sherlockian tangent. All that to say, who is John Galt? I'm just kidding. I'm saying um, I would really like to see Henry Cavill actually be able to portray the character. I would like to see him with a Mycroft who looks like Mycroft, who's well described in the story. And I can already hear, well, what about in Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch? He um his Mycroft was different. That was in modern times. It was a modern take on the character. Normally, I don't like those, but Stephen Moffat actually did a good job with Sherlock Holmes. I thought that series was really good. But anyway, neither here nor there. I really hope that Henry Cavill does great. I'm looking forward to seeing his Warhammer series. So this is kind of a minor thing I want to talk about, but I think that it's important. So uh, Guardians of the Galaxy star Chris Pratt, he of course plays Star Lord. He was actually better in the Thor movie than Thor. Um, he was talking about someone asked him about his 2018 MTV speech, where he laid out his 9 rules for life. Basically, some of them were funny, but he talked about don't not being a bully. He talked about honoring God. He says how God is real, and I guess he was, according to Bleeding Fool, um, he was he won the Generations Award is what it was at the MTV Movie and TV Awards. And he was posted on Instagram kind of a supercut of it because he kind of got off on a little bit of tangents during such a time. And he said he said on Instagram, and this is Bleeding Fool reporting it. Throwback to that time, MTV honored me with the Generation Award. I was given 3 minutes to impart wisdom to the next generation. Giving the chance to do it again, I wouldn't change a thing, except maybe I wouldn't try to eat the popcorn backstage. Yeah, good for Chris Pratt. He is an actor who, to me, stands true to his convictions. I think that, I like to make fun of Hollywood and celebrities all the time. You know this from, watching my vidcast or reading my, social media posts or yeah, my tweets, whatever it may be. Pixie Ray says he's a good guy. Indeed, he is a good guy. I think Pratt is a genuinely good guy. Kind of, we think about people like Keanu Reeves, um, folks like Patricia Heaton, Tyler Perry, even though he got weirdly involved with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. More on them later, but I still think that with Tyler Perry, I still think he's a decent guy. He's a good guy. And no matter where you feel on the wavelengths of the movies he has been in, directed, produced, whatever it is, I still think he is a genuinely good person, like Chris Pratt, who good for him for sticking to his guns. He's set to come up in his final. Excuse me, while I adjust my chair. He's set to appear in the final Guardians of the Galaxy film. It has been confirmed that, at least for the original lineup presented in the MCU, that this will be the last movie of Guardians of the Galaxy. I have to admit, I want to be excited for this movie, and I should be, even though creepy James Gunn is directing it. He still did a great job with the first two. Guardians of the Galaxy films. And Guardians of the Galaxy is interesting to me because the first film I loved, like I was slavitating of it. I didn't even know who the Guardians of the Galaxies were. Me being a child of the '90s, I thought that they were a ripoff of the Starjammers who appeared in the X-Men '90s show. The captain of the Starjammers um, space crew is Scott Summers' father. Scott Summers, Cyclops from the X-Men. So I thought, whenever I first heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought, man, what a rip off the Starjammers. And it turns out I was totally wrong on that. The Guardians of the Galaxy came before Starjammers, just with a different lineup. So we're the sort of the crew of the MCU version is kind of a modge podge of different generations of the Guardians of the Galaxy, including Star Lord, Peter Quill. He actually had his own comic book for a long time, and I'm really glad to see Chris Pratt returning. A lot of people tried to get him removed from the movie because of his Christian faith, because of certain things he's done. That's just Hollywood blacklisting. Talk to talk to people like Stacey Dash or Scott Baio or Kevin Sorbo or Matthew Marsden. These guys and ladies have been blacklisted by Hollywood just because they won't tote the communist line that Hollywood has bought into. And yes, I know it sounds 1980s, but yeah, I am calling Hollywood commies. I mean, it's clearly, with the things they support. And it's kind of funny listening to them want to moralize things. And it's like whenever I hear one of them say, like, I'll hear what's a good example of someone who likes Rob Reiner, right? He's always moralizing on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. It's like, why should I listen to you? Or Madonna, taking a bath in milk and talking about how she works just as hard as a truck driver or other I can't remember the example she used, but other blue collar workers. Like, be quiet from your mansion and your fancy bathtub with your milk bath. Leave us alone. Shut up and sing. That's my whole take on this. And I could say the same thing about and people might say, well, Jacob, what about Chris Pratt? You seem to be supporting his speech versus Madonna. And it's like, Madonna wants to moralize to me. Chris Pratt seems to actually want to walk beside me. I don't think I could have a beer with Madonna. I think I could have a beer with Chris Pratt. Yes, I drink beer. So got that out of the way. But anyway, I'm excited. It's like I was saying, I'm go back and forth. I am excited for what Chris Pratt is going to do with other things. I'm hoping that the Terminal List gets its second season. I want to read the rest of the books in this series that the Terminal List is based 2 books, and they were both fantastic. I need to read 3 and 4, and I think now there's even a 5th one out. I need to read those because they are like I said, the first 2 are fantastic. So I hope that Chris Pratt is able to do that. Now, before I move on to the next topic, I have to say goodbye to my Locals live stream. Unfortunately, Locals limits the amount of time you can live stream when you're kind of a small community like mine is. I'm not as big as some of the other pages on here, and that's okay. I hope to grow, but that's why I started first on my Locals page and was able to talk about this. And I technically do have a few more minutes, but I'm worried that I would have to cut the stream in the middle of a topic, and I don't want to do that to my Locals folks. So to everyone who is on Locals, head on over to YouTube, Facebook, or Getter, where I'm also live. Everyone, you can see the links to my YouTube channel below. I really appreciate all of you. You are fantastic. And everyone else who's watching on other platforms, keep watching. We're going to talk about a few more things. Just give me a moment here. All right. So tragically, the stream on Locals has come to an end. Once again, I just want to reiterate how much I love locals. It is a fantastic resource for it is a fantastic resource for creators. It's a good alternative to things like Patreon or Subscribestar. I think it's fantastic, and I'm going to keep using it. So Pixray again comes in with Madonna makes me uncomfortable. She makes me uncomfortable too. All right. So this is what y'all really wanted me to talk about, right? Everyone who has watched this channel knows how I feel about royalty. And I'm not talking about, man, I'm feeling royal today. I am talking about, you guessed it, um, foreign royalty, international royalty, whatever the PC way to say it is. And uh, the subject of my wrath lately has been British nobility, English royalty. And everyone knows how I feel about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. So I debated whether I want to talk about this. And for those of you who have kids, just so you know, I'm going to talk about some uncomfortable things he said in his his autobiography, which actually has a ghostwriter, so it's not an autobiography. But anyway, um, he said some uncomfortable things. So if you want small children, I'm going to tone it down as much as I can. But oh man, it's so rough. And I just I just don't get it, and why he would want to share this story. It's just it's just bonkers to me. Where so basically he is, how should I put this? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are two of the most privileged people in the entire world, and instead of using that to help people, they've used it to enrich their lives. Like I remember there when Harry and Meghan went on their famous trip to Africa. And a reporter asked, "Megan, how are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, thank you for asking. Oh my gosh, because this trip is all about me." Yeah, of course. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's not." All the Harkle fans are like, "That's not what she said." Watch the stupid video. Maybe the tone was a little different, but yeah, she's got to intern a trip where her and Harry are meeting people who are disenfranchised. Um, and and out of they're disenfranchised, they're struggling, but no, it's got to be about Megan, of course. See, Pixie Ray says, hell hath no fury like Jacob when he's slightly inconvenienced, hungry, then sees Harry and Megan's faces. I guess that's true. My poor wife has to put up with my Harry and Megan rants constantly, so sorry about that. It's sorry about that, babe. But yeah, it's true. But what's so bizarre about him is what he wrote in his book Spare, which he keeps saying that he wants to be reunited with his family. He just wants them to treat Megan a little differently. But then he writes crap like this. So, um, listen to this bizarro rich people problem story. So I guess um he was coming home for William's um I guess he was coming home for a wedding or something. Yeah, that's what it was, for Prince William's wedding to Lady Catherine. And basically he went skiing, and his little Harry got frozen, got frostbitten, if you get my drift. And he tells the story about his friend Elizabeth Arden um, handing him this cream um, that oh, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Arden is not the friend. Elizabeth Arden is a formula, and he replies to her when she gives him this cream. He says, "My mom used that on her lips. You want me to put that on my Todger?" And so then apparently she insisted that it worked, right? So he applies it, and then he says, I felt so after he says he opens it, he said he got the whiff of the scent, and he says, "I felt as if my mother was right there in the room. Then I took a smidge and applied it down there." And I'm getting ghost emojis from Pixie Ray. Okay. This is like okay, I think Freud no, make it stop is added to but, uh, okay, I think Freud was a fraud, okay? I think he was a freak and a weirdo with a PhD like Hannibal Lecter, and but I actually think Freud may have been able to help Prince Harry, and, one thing that people have pointed out is how Meghan Markle will wear clothes similar to Princess Diana when they go out. So she'll wear like she wore a dress that was real similar to that famous black dress after her and now the king, after they got divorced when he was still the prince. Um, After they got divorced, she wore that, backless black dress. And one thing, I can say about this is, I think he actually did need help. And it is a shame that, these highfalutin royals, can't shell out a couple of bucks for a session for Harry because his mother's death clearly impacted him when he was a child and he didn't have any help. And then now he's got, the headline chasing wife that he has. And instead of using her resources, like when they, went on the freedom plane to America to, to hide out at Tyler Perry's estate, um, I don't know why she just didn't get him help because there just seemed to be she seems to be taking advantage of him and using it to and using his the memory of his mother to do things like this. And with Harry, now I'm not saying Harry is totally innocent in all this. I think it's quite the opposite. I think with Harry, the problem with him is he hates the media. He blames the media for his mother's death. And yes, I know that the driver, I guess, had a little bit of alcohol in his system, but the media did kill Princess Diana. They did kill her. They chased her around everywhere she went. She couldn't have any peace. No matter where she went, there were cameras, there were lenses. Even in this, the reason the driver, like I said, yes, I know he had some alcohol in his system, but the reason the driver swerved was because a paparazzi pulled in front of the car and was taking flash pictures. And I always love it because like I can say two things can be true at the same time. The media was responsible for the death of Princess Diana, and Harry is he doesn't want to be reconnected with his family. He doesn't want to be reunited with them. He wants to use their name to promote himself. There was some speculation. There was a rumor that came out. Now I don't know if this is true, but that the Queen, because remember he and Meghan fled to Canada for a little bit because Meghan became real chummy with Justin Trudeau's wife. I should have just stayed in Canada, honestly. If they had gone out to the Yukon, no one would have been able to find him. But there's this new rumor going around that that Queen Elizabeth actually kicked them out because Meghan was so insufferable. And again, this is unconfirmed. This is just kind of a rumor that is spread in the interwebs. I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the things that you can see is just how much because Harry kept saying if you watch this some of the stuff he said, my family members would say, why should your wife get special privileges? Our wives went to do the same thing. And he said, well, there's kind of a race factor. And with Meghan Markle, it's but it wasn't just about he wanted extra protection for her. He wanted her to have special privileges. So for instance, when Queen Elizabeth was dying, she just wanted to be um, with her son and her grandchildren, and she didn't want any of the spouses. But Harry tried to get Meghan in. He wanted her to get in, and Camilla didn't go. Lady Catherine didn't go, and so why should Meghan be allowed? He wanted special privileges. I think he was doing this to start drama so he could have stuff to write about in this book. Well, of course, the book sold really well when this Freudian nightmare quote came out. And so so now, of course, Megan has to write a book because it can't just be about Harry. It's never about just Harry with Megan. She's got to be up there. Remember that dumb, I can't remember what magazine cover it was where she's standing in front of him and he's kind of standing behind her. And it's like he looks like he's there to deliver her groceries. Like, this guy used to be a prince. I think he's gonna give up his royal title. Personally, if I was the king and my son was running around doing this, confinement in Buckingham Palace, man. Like, what is going on? Probably what they're gonna end up doing is, I honestly think that because people are already getting tired of her, and Harry, the I honestly think what's going to happen with them is once people are just because people are already kind of tired of them, right? How many times can you hear the same story, the same self-loathing, the same "I hate my family," but not really. They're all a bunch of racists. Oh, we didn't actually say that. Oh, I want privacy. No, I didn't say I want privacy. That gets old after a while. So I think they're going to end up crawling back to the royal family and the king now the Queen Camilla. I think they're going to just send them off and make them a governor somewhere. That's what they did with David, right? They just made him and Wallace a governor of some island somewhere, and then of course um, they promptly embarrassed the family again, and they end up having to live in exile in France. But so Pixie Ray says, I think he is mad about what happened to his mother, rightly so, but is now using his marriage as what he thinks is a safer way to express his anger. That's certainly possible. I just don't. I'm just done giving folks like this the benefit of the doubt. They've got millions of dollars. They've got machines that can help them do this. Just think about Prince Andrew. He is a confirmed freak, and being on Epstein's plane, going to Epstein's island, and having fun possibly with girls who are underage, and he's still now he's been stripped of all of his royal titles and duties, but why isn't he in jail? Like, come on. And notice that he was a little clever in the sense that he maneuvered this. Now he's not in the headlines anymore, right? So Harry's not the only one who can play poker, apparently. So, and I've also heard that he's using like his position and his friends to stall the court case against him. And that probably will all get settled, I hope. I really don't trust the British courts. They've pretty much destroyed any semblance of rights for their citizens. They don't have the right to self-defense in England. They don't have freedom of speech in England. They don't have freedom of religion in England. It's pretty much working its way to becoming a totalitarian government, in which is a shame. I mean, they have what the Tories are supposedly or I shouldn't do this with Tories. The Tories are supposedly the conservative party, and they've done absolutely nothing. Conservative basically just means socialism light in Canada and in Europe. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I think maybe Austria and Finland are probably the only ones that I would say is a genuinely conservative government where they care about freedom of speech, where they care about religious liberty and self-defense and things like that. I think those governments, Malta is another good one. No country is perfect, obviously. I'm not saying Americans should pack up and move to these countries. I don't think that's the case. If anything, history of Europe has taught us they're always waiting for another war. So even now, right? So I think with Harry and Meghan, it's gonna phase out. I do think they're going to. These are my predictions. I think in a probably through this year, Meghan's book will come out. It's not going to sell. It's going to do poorly because no one cares, not even the British people. And she's probably going to get one more season of her Spotify podcast, Archetypes, which the title, which the things she talks about aren't archetypes, but whatever. And she's going to get one more season of that. I think they'll get one more Netflix show, maybe, and then they're going to fade away. Like, unless something like tragic happens, or unless there's some sort of reconciliation, I think they're just going to fade away. They'll still pop up, like they'll still be on Stephen Colbert. Meghan Markle will probably be a guest host on The View. You can almost count on that, right? The View love to have women from all walks of life, who make over $1 million. So, I think we're going to see that. So anyway, I know I've prattled on a lot about Harry and Meghan. It really annoys me when um foreigners, international, which I know Meghan Markle's American, but she did marry a Brit. When they try to force themselves onto American society and culture and pop culture, I think that it's intrusive and it drives me nuts. And I'm not interested in being moralized by someone who lives in a literal castle about, whether I should drive an electric car or not. You know, it's such a shame. So, like I said, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback on a lot of this stuff, but what can you do? So I'm going to change subjects now because I could go on about this for the rest of the live stream. So up next, we have from Bounding into Comics, which if you want real news about pop culture, Bounding into Comics is the place to go. From Spencer Bakuli. Spencer, if you watch this, correct me in the comments or in the chat box. Whatever, I want to pronounce your name correctly because I've cited your work before. So, Cowboy Bebop creator Shinichiro Watanabe says he was only able to stomach one scene of Netflix live action adaptation. He got farther than I did. It seems that it wasn't just fans who were unhappy with Netflix's absolute mishandling of the beloved space western series. As original Cowboy Bebop anime creator Watanabe, he admitted that he couldn't bring himself to suffer through more than one scene of the streaming service's live action abomination. That's another reason I like Bounding into Comics. They just don't hold back. Absolutely. The veteran anime director shared his opinion on the widely panned, canceled 3 weeks after its premiere adaptation during a recent career retrospective interview given to Forbes. Following a brief look back at his portfolio, including works such as Blue Comet SPT, Lasner, Gundam 0883. Oh, actually, I haven't seen that Gundam show. I need to watch that. I didn't realize he was involved in that. And of course, Cowboy Bebop. Watanabe was asked for his thoughts on Netflix's version, to which he revealed that he was, to say the least, not a fan. So this is Watanabe speaking. For the new Netflix live action adaptation, they sent me a video to review and check. It started with a scene in a casino, which made it very tough for me to continue. I stopped there and so only saw that opening scene, he confessed. It was clearly not Cowboy Bebop, and I realized at that point that if I wasn't involved, it would not be Cowboy Bebop. I felt that maybe I should have done this, although the value of the original anime is somehow far higher now. 100% correct, Mr. Watanabe. He continues and he starts talking about his work on the Animatrix. Back on the Animatrix, I first got to work with people in Hollywood, said the director. He did the clip called Kid Story. Working with those kinds of, this is him continuing, working with those kinds of people is always difficult. This is because at the beginning, they promised me that I could do whatever I want, but that's just lip service. Ouch. Actually, I had a bad altercation with a Hollywood producer on the Animatrix. He would always come with these stupid requests just so he could identify his own contribution. As the requests were stupid and made no sense, I rejected all of them. Unfortunately, I couldn't win in this situation, so I had to concede on some of these things. I learned from this bitter experience, though, he affirmed. For subsequent projects, I became smarter at handling people who wanted to interfere, and that I would send back very small corrections or adjustments just before that headline. That tended to work. In Japan, you sometimes get producers that are similar to American ones. You also find good producers in America. The original producer on the Animatrix was a really good guy. He understood my work and didn't give me these stupid requests. However, he had to leave due to family issues, but a successor called Spencer Lamb was awful. Whoa, got a name drop. So many requests, he frustratingly stated. Change this, change that. It was very frustrating. And if these requests were coming from the Wachowskis, I could at least respect that as they came up with the Matrix. So who was the new producer compared to that? He explained that he was the gatekeeper to the Wachowskis, and unless he could be convinced, he wouldn't bring my work to them. In handling the situation, Watanabe said that when I went to Los Angeles for the recording sessions, I told the team that if I saw that producer, I would just punch him in the face. The producer ended up not coming to the recordings, which is unheard of. Amazing. I empathize with him, with Mr. Watanabe, a great deal, because as a writer myself, if someone did this to one of my works or something that I was working on behalf of someone, I would be furious. It's um it's it's never something it's never something to see, or I should say, it's never something good that when you see your own work get crushed. I remember one time I wrote this is actually what started StudioJake Media. Was And at the time it was called Lone Star Daily. I originally wrote this review for a Christian website. Now I don't want to say who, because I don't want people to go back and flame them in the comments and all that. But I reviewed a movie called Parker, which has Jason Statham. Actually didn't give it that good of a review. I just basically said, hey, it's a good popcorn flick, but it's just got this back. And being a Christian, wanted you to talk about the morality of the film. So I said, obviously stealing is wrong. 'Cause, it was kind of one of these heist films where a guy steals from innocent people, but he's still the hero somehow. It was one of those types of films. And I basically was I basically came in the next morning and discovered that not only did they totally change my review, they only kept like 2 paragraphs the same, and they had totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Editorialized it. So, I was furious, as one could imagine, and I sent like a pretty. Now I'm just a kid. Like I'm barely in college at this point, and I'm barely out of college at this point. I've written a few reviews for this website, and they never had editorialized it. And I basically said, "Hey, I said these things. And I didn't even say it was a good movie. I just said like it was a good popcorn flick." And they said, "Well, you basically endorsed it." And so that's actually so then something something else happened where I was kind of caught in this. I asked to review this movie, and they said yes. So I sent them, because what you had to do at this website is you couldn't just write the review and send it. You had to send your ideas on what you would talk about in this movie. So I sent them that. It was basically confirmation email. Then again, a couple of days later, I don't hear anything from them. Normally they would reply pretty quickly. Well, then they sent me. Well, then I get up, and the movie was given to another person, and so I wrote them and I said, "Hey, what the heck?" And they said, "You didn't send us this confirmation." And I said, "I have it in my send box. I know you got it." And I didn't get a response. And that's when I just said, "You know what? I'm going to resigning," and thus StudioJake Media was born. So if someone came along to me and said, "Hey, Jacob, we would like to back you, but you have to change this to this about the website," I would say absolutely freaking not. Studio Jake Media is my baby. I'm very proud of it, and I wouldn't change it. So, Mr. Watanabe talking about how Netflix ruined Cowboy Bebop, I totally understand it. Just from the clips that I saw, like they did this joke about toilets. Got to get that potty humor in there. Cowboy Bebop didn't need toilet humor to be successful anime. It's probably one of the greatest animes ever created, and I'm not exaggerating. It's in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. And this Netflix version, like I said, I just watched the clips that they released to promote the show that were terrible, and I couldn't do it. It's really, really something to see this. And one thing you can say, you can complain about the Ghost in the Shell live action remake with Scarlett Johansson. Sure, the movie's not perfect. They at least tried to keep the spirit of the original anime intact. They combined the first film and the second film together to make it longer and stuff. But I still thought that they contain the essence of Ghost in the Shell. With same, like, a lot of people don't like the MCU version of Spider-Man, the particularly the first two movies. I thought they were good. I had fun watching them. Yes, how dare I have an opinion? I thought they were good. I I thought they were good, because, and I've heard people say, "Oh, he's just Iron Boy. He's just Iron Man's sidekick." Well, okay, that might be true, but in this films, but I did think that Tom Holland as an actor playing Peter Parker maintained enough of the essence of a high school Spider-Man where it convinced me. Now it does seem like Spider-Man No Way Home is kind of bringing him back to basics, and I hope that's the case. I hope we see this. Now, I also wanted to highlight this other thing. So, my fellow commentator, Christian Toto, he's a friend of the channel. He's been on here several times, and I went on his show before. I've written for his website, hollywoodandtoto.com. He had this article that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called "Liberal Media Wake Up to Horrors of Woke, but Is It Too Late?" And it's written by Christian Toto himself. And he says, "It's a classic science fiction trope, one playing out in real time." I'm not even going to try to imitate his voice. He's got a way too great radio voice for me to imitate. "A scientist creates a frightening new life form, and in the third act, the monster turns out on its creator. The monster in this analogy? Cancel culture and its woke tendrils. The scientists, mainstream news reporters who cheered on the woke revolution, ignoring conservatives who warned of its pernicious impact on the arts. One conservative even wrote a book on the topic. That would be Christian Toto's own book, which I highly recommend. Have reporters who directly fueled cancel culture over the past few years realized the error of their ways? Perhaps. And he shares a tweet with a reporter who says, "Cowardice at Sundance. Why was Jihad Rehab canceled?" It's a guy from The Atlantic. And then Christian Toto says, "It started late last year at the New York Times and The Atlantic, two reliably liberal outlets. Each covered the cancel culture attack on Jihad Rehab, a documentary that debuted at last year's Sundance Film Fest. The movie, directed by white filmmaker Meg Smocker, correct me in the comments if you would, followed a group of Islamic militants going through Saudi Arabia's rehabilitation center. The film criticized America's war on terror policies and offered sympathy to so-called enemy combatants. It refused to sugarcoat their crimes, though. The movie earned pre-release raves at that Sundance seal of approval. Smacker couldn't help but dream of what happened for her next film. Then a wave of critics swarmed, saying Jihad Rehab puts its subjects in danger and showed dangerous Arab stereotypes. Even worse, a story set in the Muslim world shouldn't be told by a white woman. The film got canceled, full stop. Sundance apologized for screening the documentary, and initial supporter Abigail Disney backpedaled furiously. She's good at that. One day she hates Disney for stealing the Disney Corporation, for stealing the Disney legacy from her family, and then the next day she's praising it. She's really good at hypocrisy. Continuing, South by Southwest, an edgy film fest and music showcase, canceled the screening. National Review published a stinging piece by filmmaker Sebastian Younger defending Smacker against the woke mob. That's hardly surprising, given the outlet's conservative bona fides. Except its outrage didn't happen in a vacuum. Both the Times and Atlantic rallied behind Jihad Rehab in no uncertain terms. Their combined coverage helped uncancel the film, now dubbed The Unredacted. The film had been screened multiple times in recent weeks and may enjoy a traditional release this year. Don't plan to watch it. Variety, a liberal outlet that typically supports cancel culture forces, stepped up next. The site shared a provocative story tied to the Jihad Rehab kerfuffle, saying the film's cancellation has a ripple effect on the festive landscape. And I want you to go. I don't want to read the whole article because I want you to go to Hollywood and Toto and finish it yourself. It's called "Liberal Media Wake Up to Horrors of Woke, but Is It Too Late?" Um, Here's my thing. Once again, men's room. Hail to you as well, sir. Um, Here's my thing with. I feel like woke has kind of gotten overused at times because some people will describe woke when they just mean liberal. And for instance, this is always the example I use. Star Trek: The Next Generation was liberal, but it wasn't woke. And I've actually debated people on this. Woke is political pandering to a particular segment of people wanting to push things like, like basically communism onto the airwaves, but it's not done in a subtle way. It's instead of the old writing proverb is show don't tell. They want to tell. Don't show tell because that's what they do. That's why you get cringe dialogue in games like Forspoken, or you get really bad writing in shows like Naomi or Batwoman or Titans or whatever it is, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. And I think I don't think it's too late to save the film industry. I think it's too late to save Hollywood. I think they've gotten too deep into the mud, too deep into that part of politics. And honestly, politics really does ruin everything. That's not to say you can't do a film about politics, you can't do a movie about politics, but it seems like every show or movie you watch these days, the Republican is always the bad guy, right? It's never the good guy. I remember Ralph Fiennes, Jennifer Lopez were in a movie, and Ralph Fiennes played a Republican lawmaker. And in the movie, he's portrayed as a decent human being. He's a good guy. He's, he has to learn some things. There's some character development, but it's not, this in your face kind of thing where all this Republican is so bad and it takes a wham and to turn him around. No, it's a show about, it's a rom com. It's a little cheesy, but whatever. It's got J-Lo in it. What do you expect? And so when it comes to this, and this is what I want to close on. Whenever politics becomes the story itself, the story becomes bad. I am someone who, I make no secret about the fact that I tend to be more politically conservative. I'm a populist. I'm a federalist. I believe in I have my beliefs, and certainly if you read my reviews on StudioJakeMedia.com, if you read my novels, you're certainly going to see some of that bleed over into these works, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't condemn people who do this, but I would never have my main character in the Seven Royals is Prince Jasher, the Dragon Prince. I wouldn't just have him stand on a pedestal and deliver the soliloquy. To me, that's what I like Ayn Rand as a writer. I'm not an objectivist. I'm not a libertarian at all. But I like her as a writer. I love We the Living. I love the Anthem. I love the Fountainhead. And I feel like with something like Atlas Shrugged, for instance, it's a good book. It's got a good buildup. It's freaking long, but the book closes where John Galt, the person who people have been asking, who is John Galt, the whole book, he gives up and gives this huge soliloquy that just is about his belief in the book, his thing, and I just think that that takes you out of the story. I think that if she had just kept focusing it on being it, and like I said, show don't tell, I think that that would have been a way better climax to the book. This doesn't mean that the character can't have like this big expositional point, but it needs to have some brevity to it. A good example of this is the famous, greed is good speech from the Wall Street film, right? Another good example um, is all these sports movies where you have the coach rally the team together. They do a good some are better than others, but you do the whole team rising up. Great moments come from great opportunities, is from Miracle. That's a great example with Kurt Russell playing the American Olympic uh hockey team, about to go up against the Soviets, who they had been humiliated by earlier. you know Whenever you see these kind of moments, and they can be from one side of the aisle or not, or the other, or none at all. It can just be about values. It doesn't have to be about politics. You don't want it to you don't want politics itself to become the to become the story. It's with something like Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard. In Gene Roddenberry's vision, the story of mankind was one of hope and one of optimism. And then with the new Trek under Alex Kurtzman, um, we see that's all gone away. We're back to this nihilistic. There is no hope. There's nothing out there for us. We just have to survive. So Star Trek is a great. Star Wars is another great example. Jon Favreau is trying to bring back Star Wars back to that space opera, the epic. It's heroes versus villains, and then we've got other forces inside. You kind of see the Civil War in Lucasfilm, right, where they're sparring over these different attitudes. Is it going to be about good versus evil, or is it going to be about relaying a message constantly at the audience faces? I certainly hope that we get back to a place where we can have some of that brevity. And like I said, I think it's too late for Hollywood as the standard bearer in the entertainment industry, but as more independent filmmakers rise to the top, as more independent film studios, writers like myself, in the novel space, more people turning to comic book alternatives like on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, or in Eric July's case, his own website, or or they're going overseas for better content. Keep doing that. Don't pay the person who's beating you over the head with their script. Spend your money elsewhere. Buy independent, buy mangas, go see Korean films. Do what you have to do to go into this, because one thing wokeism has ruined is escapism. And we all need a little bit of escapism. It's even infiltrated sports. It's so ridiculous. So I hope that we can come back together as a society here in the United States, and have ripple effects all over the world, where we can say, "Hey, we want our entertainment to entertain us." So that's all I have to say. Before I say goodbye, I want to remind everyone that I write novels. So I've got Cacophony here. This is the first book I ever published. This is a paranormal tale about angels and demons. The demons are trying to take over a town, and the 7 archangels are sent to stop them. This is my fantasy series, Seven Royals, All Good Things. That's this book here. Sorry about the ring light. It is a tale about a group of fairy tale characters who have to come together and work together to save their kingdoms from an evil mage who wants to conquer them. Seven Royals, Breaking the Stars continues this. They are part 1 and part 2 of a trilogy. Book 3 is on its way. And I also wrote another novel that there'll be a big announcement of very, very soon. So that's all the time I have today. If you're whatever platform you're watching on, if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button, give me a like, share it out. If you're on Facebook, follow my Facebook page, like the video, share it out. If you're on Getter, share out the video on Getter, like it. You can find me all over social media, but of course, head over to my local StudioJake Media. locals.com or head over to my website, studiojakemedia.com. I want to thank everyone who was here today, everyone who was in the chat, everyone who was watching. Like I said, I am not under any illusion that everyone is here for me. I understand that it is because of you that I can do this. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.